Welcome to the Three-Piece Combo MMA show brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Jonathan, aka Three-Piece Combo, and in today's episode, we're going to recap what just happened between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. We did just see Tyron Woodley let down the MMA community, and there's 6 people in the chat right now. I want to say what's up to you guys. Make sure you guys like the video real quick. We got our boy Kai here, Samurai Radio. I hate it here. Alex Beher saying, what a flipping joke this fight was. Even bigger joke was that post-fight interview. We're actually going to get into that post-fight interview because that it might have set up an immediate rematch, which is very interesting because that was a pretty clear decision in my opinion. Let's talk about the fight first. Let's just get into the X's and O's of the fight. So basically, the Tyron Woodley of the last 4 fights of his UFC career, that's the same Tyron Woodley we got. Now, if you haven't watched Tyron Woodley real quick, let me go ahead and put this banner up real quick for you guys. Bang, bang. My boy Kai asking, Jonathan, why the hell do we keep giving Jake Paul these wins, bro? I mean, he fought Nate Robinson. That's an easy dub. Ben Askren, horrible striking. Tyron Woodley, that's the one I'm a little bit let down by. That's the one I'm definitely a little bit let down by, especially because he has the power. He's an accredited UFC champion. He has heavy hands. He's put guys to sleep. And then Jake Paul just survives, right? Just survives. So let's get into the fight a little bit. Going into round 1. So round 1, really just slow start, right? Both guys feeling out each other pretty much. Not a lot of shots thrown. Tyron Woodley slightly walking down Jake Paul. Jake Paul kind of throwing a little bit off his back foot, not too much. You would say Jake Paul won the round just because he threw a little more volume. Round 2, another uneventful round. No need to talk about that shit. Woodley started to open up in round 3, but the combinations of Jake Paul was actually overshadowing the 1 or 2 power punches that Tyron Woodley was throwing. So even though Woodley was probably landing the harder shots, right, Jake Paul was out here landing volume. And yeah, I want to get into some of these comments coming in. Yikes Live saying T Wood still does not go all out. He doesn't, man. He just hasn't let loose. And the 1 or 2 rounds that he lets loose, he looks so good. He looked amazing in that 4th or 5th round where he had those amazing. Once his confidence is there, once he just lets his hands go, he looks amazing. He talked about the jab that he was going to use this fight. He only threw the jab about 5 or 6 times, but every time he threw it, it was great. So it was really sad to see. Big Len 305 saying Tyron got to throw more punches. He could have won easily. 100%. 100%, man. He could have won this fight super easy. I think he could have won within the first 4 rounds, but he came out 2 feeling out process. I don't know why he just did not go out here. Yikes saying he's getting another payout for a tattoo. That is true. Ronoa Zoro saying T Wood fought extremely hesitant. When he actually let it fly, he made some real progress. And that's true, man. The 2 rounds he let it go. It was round 4. Let's before we get into round 4, round 3, as the buzzer was ending, he threw a right hand and it caught him right down the pipe, and it was good. And Alex Bayer saying Tyron looked out of sorts, unsure himself. Honestly, he thinks he was overthinking it all. That's what it looks like, man. Tyron Woodley is just super hesitant, and that's what he's been for the last 4 fights of his career. I mean, he looked good against Vicente Luque before he got choked out with that Darce choke, but he was actually letting loose there. But yeah, man, he does look amazing when he lets loose, but he did not. But in this, at the end of the 3rd round, right when the buzzer was landing, or right when the buzzer was going off or the bell was going off, he landed a clean straight right down the pipe, right into the middle. And it was nice. And it was the first shot that he actually landed that looked really good. Now, getting into the 4th round, this is when Woodley started to get some shots in. He was landing. He was really just walking Jake Paul down. He was seeing his shots really well. He was being really good defensively, right? Staying out of the way, moving his head really well, landing some good right hands, landed that beautiful left hook. And then I think it was another right hand that dropped him down back onto the ropes. And I'm curious to think, I want to know what you guys think in the comments. If the ropes weren't there, would that right hand of Tyron Woodley knock down Jake Paul? Would that have been a 10-8 round? I think it would have been. I think that could have been. I mean, it was a split decision, and I don't think it should have been a split decision, and we'll talk about that a little bit after. But yeah, I think that should have been a 10-8 round because that probably would have been a knockdown. Roronoa Zoro saying he needs the jab instead of the power shots. He does, man. He does. He definitely does. Yikes Live saying T Wood needs to spar with GSP, learn that jab for real, man. And the thing is, yeah. So Yikes saying 10-8 with the ropes. He had the jab there, and he wasn't doing it, right? He just wasn't throwing it. It was just the Woodley that we've grown to seeing over late, the hesitant Woodley, the Woodley that's afraid to throw punches. And, it's just maybe just this is who Tyron Woodley is, right? Maybe he's just in his own head. Maybe he's just overthinking everything. And I want to talk about this a little bit. The rematch desperation was so cringe, but come on, he had to try. Losing to a YouTuber after his MMA resume is just embarrassing. And I agree with that, right? You can't come out here. You're a UFC champion that's knocked dudes out cold. And you're going up against a YouTuber. Maybe yeah, he has a little bit, a little more size on you, but you fought guys with bigger size. I mean, you fought strikers like Steven Wonderboy Thompson before, and you went, the distance with guys like that. If fighting a guy like Jake Paul is not even close to the same level. So the lack of aggression was really just, mind boggling. I was sitting there shaking my head pretty much the entire time except the fourth round. After the fourth round, after he landed those shots, come in the fifth round, he just went back to being the same old, gun shy Tyron Woodley. And this is when he was pressuring Jake Paul. Jake Paul was clearly, visibly tired, breathing out of his mouth, gassed, right? He just didn't throw those shots. And when he would throw them, he would give Jake Paul enough time to throw a couple of shots back in counter. And whether they landed or not, or whether they bounced off the gloves, it looked like he was landing more shots anyway. So he was able to get the round. So back to round 6, pretty much the same thing. Tyron Woodley hesitant. Round 7, same bullshit. Tyron Woodley just not throwing, right? Round 8, I mean, it didn't really matter at that point because we knew what the scorecard was looking at. At least I thought it was. I mean, it was looking like it was 6-1 going into the 8th round. But apparently some judges saw it a little otherwise. Not sure why they did, but hey, it goes for a rematch, right? At least they're gonna sell some more pay-per-views there, I guess. But yeah, going into the 8th round, you knew that Woodley had to get the knockout, but he just was still hesitant, still wasn't throwing those shots. I mean, he was walking him down. He was doing a decent job cutting off the cage, cutting off the ring. But just not throwing that right hand, man. Just not letting it go enough, not throwing that jab. I don't think I don't think it was his performance night. So I wanted to get into some of these comments saying, yikes, live saying, can't say he knows what to expect now. He's a pro for F's sakes. That's super true, man. And Michael West saying Tyron would win the rematch if it happened. And actually, let's get into that because that's something that I was listening to the post fight interview before we got on here. And I was curious what he was going to say, right? Because, he just lost to a YouTuber and, he was talking a lot of shit. There was a lot of heat going into this match. And there's actually 23 people live in here right now. Make sure you smash that like button. I'm going to sound like a typical YouTuber. Go ahead, do that for me real quick so that helps out. But yeah, an immediate rematch. So after the fight, Jake Paul was actually really respectful, and I'm gonna have to give credit where credit's due. He gave a lot of respect to Tyron Woodley. He said that he landed some good shots. He gave a lot of respect to Tyron, and he let out a good message too, talking about anybody who doesn't have confidence or anybody that's bullying people to stop bullying people. So give credit where credit's due. Jake Paul had a good message afterward, but then Ariel Helwani gave the microphone to Tyron Woodley, and Tyron was saying that he believes he won the fight there. Now you're not, at the end of the fight, you're not going to say that you lost a fight if you're still standing. And I mean, he did land the hardest punch of the fight. So I guess, you're not, I don't know where we're going with this, but he did land the hardest punch, right? So you can say, hey, I had the biggest moment of the fight, right? I put more damage to you than you put on to me. You won via points, I've won via damage, something like that. So Tyron Woodley said he won the fight. I don't believe that at all. Y4 and CO VARD4. Is it possible Jake Paul is just better than we thought? He's definitely better than most people thought, but people were picking him to win this fight, and we got to remember he was the favorite, right? So people understands that this kid is not just a kid out here who's just a YouTuber. He's been training with top-notch people for a long time. So he has legitimate skills. Now, is he a top-tier boxer? No, right? He's definitely not a top-tier boxer just yet. He went toe-to-toe with somebody like Tyron Woodley. Sure, he's a UFC fighter that's been training for boxing for a little bit. He's not a top-tier boxer just yet. I feel like he still has a little bit of work to do, and I think he realized that after this fight. He talked about how he might want to take a little bit of time off before he gets into this next fight, saying he wants to do a little bit of soul searching. He's been boxing for 18 months straight. Then Tyron Woodley comes up and he says, hey, I want this. I want the rematch. And, Jake Paul's there and Logan Paul's behind him saying, hey, man, like, you're old news. You just lost. Like, the scorecards might have said that it was a split decision, but we know that it wasn't a split decision. It was a very clear decision. I won this fight. And Tyron Woodley was very insistent on getting an immediate rematch. He said that it would sell really well. And he pushed Jake Paul to the point because he was like, hey, you scared of me? And Jake Paul is on a public stage, and Ariel Helwani is the perfect instigator right there in the middle. I love Ariel Helwani tonight. What a great job he did, man. Shout out to Ariel Helwani. Just after leaving ESPN, just doing huge things, man. Shout out to the man doing great things. But he was right there in the middle and helping instigate it. And Jake Paul said, hey, if you get that I love Tyron or I love Jake Paul tatted on your leg, we'll do an immediate rematch. And they shook on it. So it looks like we're getting an immediate rematch. I don't know when the fight is going to happen. They were going to get the tattoo done. I guess they had the tattoo artist ready to go right there. So he was ready to go with that. But looks like we're getting an immediate rematch. Let me get some of these comments real quick saying, Sebastian Latouf saying Jake Paul is overhated. I don't like him, but I don't hate him either. I feel you with that, right? Because I feel like he doesn't get the respect he deserves. Sure, he's a YouTuber. Sure, I mean, I don't care for him as a YouTuber. Like, I'm not a big fan of anything he does or whatever. Sure, they do a lot of it for clout, but they've built themselves up as a brand, right? I don't like him. I don't like what he does. I'm not a big fan of any of their shit. But you have to respect the skills the man has, right? He goes out there and he goes toe to toe with athletes. Like, sure, Nate Robinson, that's a wash. Ben Askren, that's the start of something. He's not a great boxer. I mean, actually, probably the worst striker in UFC or MMA history. Absolutely garbage, right? But now he goes up against somebody like Tyron Woodley, who's a legitimate power puncher and has power in his hands, and a UFC champion, somebody who's going to be a UFC Hall of Famer. And he lasted 12 or 8 rounds, and he was able to take the best shot that Tyron Woodley had. Now, Tyron Woodley was gun shy, but Jake Paul was able to land and do volume and win via points. And he was a smarter boxer. He did what he had to do. If you knew that somebody like Tyron Woodley is going to be gun shy, you just know that you can focus your point. You're focused on just countering his one shot with a couple more shots. And that's what Jake Paul was doing, was returning the one shot of Tyron Woodley with a couple shots of his own. And it ended up winning him the fight. He was just landing more volume. Tyron was too hesitant. And this rematch, man, this rematch is going to happen. So, Sebastian, appreciate your comment, brother. Deep Dive saying so fixed. I mean, it could be. Who knows? It could be. I mean, these things are these celebrity boxing stuff. It's a little more pro wrestling-esque, right? Mauro Ronaldo mentioned it. I mean, what an amazing guy Mauro Ronaldo is. Love listening to that guy talk as well. Ariel is a Bills fan, but we love him regardless. Yeah, man, I'm a Giants fan, but we definitely love Ariel regardless if he's a Bills fan or what. But man, he's doing great. Tyron definitely worked him over. Yeah, I feel like definitely if Tyron didn't press that rematch thing in a public space like that afterwards, he wouldn't have gotten that rematch. So that rematch is going to happen. Who do I think wins the fight? I mean, it's hard to say Tyron Woodley because we know how hesitant he is, right? We know that he's gun shy. We know that this guy is not going to throw the punches that we want him to. We're going to have to see him sit back and not throw punches, be hesitant, be scared, be in his own head. And that's the Tyron Woodley that we've grown accustomed to see. So if Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul go at it again, Jake Paul wins again, right? Jake Paul wins again just because Tyron's probably still not going to throw. We haven't seen Tyron throw in the last 3 years. What's going to make this fight any different? Just because, I mean, how much more heat does he need, right? They went after Mama Woodley. The entire MMA community was rallying together for Mama Woodley. That did not motivate Tyron Woodley enough to go ahead and fight and actually throw some punches. That of everything you would think that would be was something that would do it. And Alex Beher saying it seems like Tyron is his own biggest enemy. It's absolutely true, man, because when he let his hands go, he looked like he was clearly outclassing Jake Paul, and it wasn't even a fight. In round 4, when he actually let his hands go, in round 8, he let his hands go, it wasn't a fight. That's when he looks good. But what he does, the problem is he doesn't let his hands go, and it's it's nobody's fault but his own. His corner is imploring him to open up. His corner is begging him to open up. His corner is telling him to listen to the corner, to open up, throw your hands because your hands are much better than this guy. Sure, you're going to get caught with a couple, but since Jake Paul's backing up off his back foot, he's not going to have some power in those shots all the time. Tough to say why Tyron Woodley was not throwing it up. Deep Dive saying he was holding back big time on purpose. If you think it's a work, hey, maybe it was, right? But with all the disrespect that happened, you expected him to represent the MMA community just a little bit better. Just a little bit better, man. You wanted him to do that. But yeah, credit to Jake Paul. You definitely got to give a little bit of credit to him because he lasted 8 rounds with the UFC champion. He landed some decent shots, right? There was a couple that definitely hit Woodley, and for him to do that, hey man, give the dude respect. He's undefeated. He went full rounds. He took the best shot that Tyron Woodley had. He didn't like you said, we didn't let him go off with that. Wow, this is a great comment. I love to see Holloway face Jake with pure volume he would put on him. That's a great, interesting point, but that would be a huge weight disparity. Like Max Holloway would have to gain. I mean, he probably walks around he fights at 145, probably walks around 160. Maybe you gain 15 pounds there, but that's a big weight disparity. But man, that would be a very interesting matchup. Max Holloway versus Jake Paul. Is that the next fight after Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul? Hey, maybe that's what it is. I want you guys to answer this question real quick. Did Tyron Woodley let the MMA community down? Do you guys think that he let the MMA community down? Because I feel like up and down my timeline, everybody was rallying for Tyron Woodley to get this win. There was not one person that I saw that wanted Jake Paul to win. Now, there was people that thought Jake Paul was going to win. There was people that were here picking Jake Paul to win because they know the Tyron Woodley that we saw, right? They watched Tyron Woodley's last 4 fights. We've seen the hesitant Woodley. So, yeah, man, I feel like, Alex and Sebastian both saying yes big time. I agree with both you guys, man. I feel like he absolutely let down the MMA community. We had Jorge Masvidal and Yoel Romero getting ready to fly out to Cleveland, Ohio because of the disrespect that happened to Mama Woodley. The entire MMA community was rallying together. Everybody was putting their hope into Tyron Woodley. He was the prodigal son. He was the chosen one. But at the end of the night, he lost. And that was it. He let us all down. And now he has to, I guess he has another opportunity to save us, right? If he has that immediate rematch, maybe he does get the win next time. Maybe he lets his hands go next time. Maybe he doesn't, right? What's more likely? He probably doesn't. I don't think he does. Personally, I don't think we were gonna see a Tyron Woodley lets his hands go because we've seen the disrespect and the heat leading up to this match. That didn't motivate him to let his hands go. He's gonna get a tattoo. You think that's gonna make him think about it, right? He's gonna have that "I love Jake Paul" tattoo. I don't know, man. It's gonna be tough to see if he in a rematch if he's gonna be able to get it done. But I do think he let the MMA community down. I think it was a big letdown because for sure everybody wanted him to win. There was nobody that wanted Jake Paul to win. Nobody. But final thoughts, man. Just want to get out of here real quick. It's a little bit late, 12:45. Appreciate everybody joining me in the comments. Give everybody a shout out real quick. Of course, my boy Kai, Samurai Radio. Make sure you check out his show in the morning times right here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. My boy Alex Baher checking us out. First comment of the night. Appreciate you, man. Yikes Live. What's a couple comments? Big Len 305. Ro Noah Zoro checking in as well. We had some comments from Michael West saying he would win Tyron if the rematch would happen. Y4NCO V4RD4. That sounds like a Star Wars name, like C3PO or R2D2. But is it possible Jake Paul better than we thought? Maybe we'll know. We'll see next time, right? If that fight happens again. Deep Dive 305. Appreciate you joining us as well. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, Jake Paul was able to get it done. You got to give the dude respect. Tyron Woodley is going to get this tattoo that says "I love Jake Paul" on his thigh or his hamstring, maybe his butt cheek. Jake Paul was talking a lot of stuff about Tyron Woodley's cheeks before this fight. Along LKR, Jake Paul won via split decision, although it should have been unanimous because it was very clear that Jake Paul won 6-2, in my opinion. So, yeah, Jake Paul got the win, unfortunately, along LKR. But yeah, he got the win. After the fight, Tyron Woodley got in his face, asked him if he was scared to fight again, said that he would sell a lot of pay-per-views if they did fight again. And I want to read this comment actually. I'm a dental hygienist, and I thought it was pretty random how he claims that he hasn't been to the dentist in the last 18 months. He can spare a couple hours. As all you can. Go to the dentist. Good message, guys. If anybody's watching this and you haven't gone to the dentist recently, make sure you guys go to the dentist. From our boy, Alex Beher. I hope I'm saying that right. But appreciate you, Alex. Um, but yeah, man, he was able to get the fight done. After the fight, he got in his face, said that he would, if Jake Paul was scared, Jake Paul said, no, I'm not scared. But if you get the tattoo saying I love Jake Paul on your leg, we can do the rematch. They shook on it. They made a deal right in the middle, right after the fight, live on Showtime. And it looks like we're going to get an immediate rematch. I don't know when that rematch happens. Have a good night, Alex. Don't know when that rematch happens, but when it does, hey man, these celebrity boxing stuff, it's fun for me. Gets the whole community riled up, gets everybody watching fights. I don't see no reason to hate it. I know the purists out there don't see it as, a positive for the community. My opinion, I think these are great because how many times this weekend have we heard former UFC welterweight champion Tyron Woodley? For the MMA community, this is great because there's some eyes that are coming to now see, maybe guys that supported, Tyron Woodley coming in. You want to see who this guy was, and he goes and he sees some of these old fights. And now he's getting into UFC. These things are good because any publicity is good publicity. And if you're bringing eyes to the UFC, you can make change going forward. The sport's only getting bigger. I think it's great for the community. Awesome night for everything, man. But it was a good night overall. I thought the card was pretty fun. I thought there was some pretty decent fights on the card. Love versus that one dude. I can't remember off the top of my name. That was an amazing fight. Love did get the win there. But overall, great card. Very entertaining. Post fight was entertaining. The shorts that Jake Paul had were pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. Those LED screens on the shorts for him to go out with that. That's pretty what's up for sure. But overall, it sucks that Tyron Woodley wasn't able to get the win. Felt like he had the ability to, but kind of held himself back. But at the end of the night, it's kind of the Tyron Woodley we've grown accustomed to seeing. So we will see the rematch. Don't know when that's happening, but when it does happen, we'll have the post show right here, live on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. From myself, Jonathan, aka Three Piece Combo, I want to thank you for joining the Three Piece Combo MMA show brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Have a good night, everybody. And after next time, I'll see you again.